Take me right into guard. Go ahead. This is your show,
So I'm
babe.
going to go with Bradley Beal. I know I talked about him on Monday. Again, he's at a little bit higher price than he was last time, but he's going up against the Rockets in a game. Obviously, the Rockets are struggling quite a bit. And I think when you look at how stacked the lineup is at bigs tonight, and then of course you got James Harden, Steph Curry, Luka Doncic all going tonight. I think that Beal's not going to be too chalky as good as an option. I think he is, because with Spencer Dinwiddie out, his usage goes up big time. Dinwiddie's riding 4 consecutive games with 55 plus DK fantasy points. Rockets are dead last in defensive efficiency, second in pace. So right now, and they're allowing a lot of fantasy production from both opposing point guards and shooting guards. So I think Beal is a guy who normally might be chalky on maybe on a smaller slate, maybe like a 6-game slate, but tonight he's a guy who I think will just be moderately used throughout tonight. So he's my favorite guard play.
Gary, and if our viewers are considering building a lineup around a guard, who would you recommend?
I think Nick's right. It's got to be Beal. You just look at how concentrated Washington's health issues are. It's every point guard not named Bradley Beal or Raul Neto. And Neto's really not getting that many minutes. So Beal's been forced to play 43 in each of the Wizards' past 2 games because, like I said, it's not just Dinwiddie. It's also literally the 2 guards they signed as hardship exemptions are now on the COVID list. They just don't have anyone to handle the rock except Bradley Beal. And that's just led to really the best stretch of Beal's season from a fantasy perspective. He's been kind of underwhelming for the first 2 months of the year. And now he's put up 55 DraftKings points in each of his past 4 games. The Wizards have the second highest implied team total on this slate. That obviously says more about the Rockets than it does the Wizards, but it doesn't matter how we got there. It just means they're going to score a lot of points tonight. And Bradley Beal is going to be at the heart and center of it. So it's really hard to fade that guy on this slate.
Yeah, Whalen, there are a lot of elite players in this 11-game slate, and Beal truly does stand out as one of the best of the bunch.
Yeah, Beal makes a lot of sense. Hard to argue against that. I think this is also a relatively good spot for Luka Doncic. I know he goes up against a really good team and a good defense in Golden State, but 10,600, for a guy who can give you 60 plus on any night, which he did in their last game against Denver, and it still kind of feels like he's, I don't know if he's playing his way into shape, but playing his way, off of that ankle injury. It was a long layoff, and it felt like he hasn't really played that well in these last 2 games. He's still struggling with the 3-point shot. He was in foul trouble their last game against Denver, and yet he still has 62 DraftKings points in that game. So, you can never really go wrong with Luka Doncic. I would normally give an endorsement for DeJounte Murray, who I feel like I talk about, at least twice a week on this show, but he is coming off of COVID protocols, could be a little bit limited. We do expect him to play on the second night of a back-to-back, but, wouldn't be surprised if they limit his minutes a little bit due to conditioning purposes. And then the last guy I would consider is Fred VanVleet. 9,500, tough to ignore, even though you're going up against a tough matchup in Milwaukee. He has 55, 66, 57, 54, and 54 DraftKings points over his last 5 games.